Greetings to everyone. My name is Emmanuel Dupuy. I'm co-founder of Aero Asset. We have been hosting live sessions with industry stakeholders for slightly over 3 years now. And as many of you, we're very passionate about the industry. The people, the tech, the challenges, the accomplishments, the struggles. Kudos to our technical engineer for solving this particular problem. And thank you all for your patience. The helicopters, of course, and most importantly, the missions they fulfill. The diversity of missions, platforms, and actors make our global ecosystem fascinating and unique, and federate a commitment to the industry that brings us today to this live roundtable. We switched up the format a little and hope you find it informative, whether watching live or via replay. Today, 4 helicopter OEMs in alphabetical order, Airbus, Bell, Leonardo, and Sikorsky, will be exchanging on current topics in the first segment and diving deep into the US market in a second. We'll then be exploring the state of the pre-owned twin-engine helicopter market in a final panel. But first, to get the conversation going, I'm delighted to introduce Airbus Helicopters Head of Marketing, David Prevor, Leonardo VP Marketing, Giacomo Zampetti, BellFlight Regional Sales Manager, Western Europe and North Sea, Robin Wendling, and Sikorsky Program Management Director, Dan Shidler. Gentlemen, great to see you all.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
After a soft patch in 2023, pre-owned twin helicopter demand looks much better in Europe year over year. Can you please give us some insight on how you are finding demand for new helicopters in Europe? And let's start with Giacomo.
Okay, thanks for the question, Emmanuel. I'm delighted to start so I can say a lot of interesting stuff, but we'll try to be concise. Okay, basically we are seeing this good momentum across the industry, across the market globally, but specifically also in Europe. If I see what's happening on our side, specifically on the first 6 months of the 2024, we registered globally a 30% roughly of increase against the same period of last year in terms of orders. And this trend is more or less the same that we are experiencing in Europe. And now that we are almost at the closure, we actually closed the third quarter, but we cannot publish results. The trending is remaining quite similar. So a stable momentum across segments. Where I see specifically Europe, a good time is, for example, the energy market. We see a lot of movement in the Nordics area. In general, the VIP segment and all the other segment. But those two ones at the moment in the civil are the ones that, at least from our perspective in Leonardo, driving. And of course, we are confirming our presence in the civil, in the military ones. I don't want to take too much time for the others. So that's my view at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Giacomo. Robin, can you give us your take on demand for new helicopters in Europe?
Hi, Emmanuel. Hi, everyone. For us, 2021 and 22 were very strong years. I agree with your comment on 23, being slightly slower. I think 2024 is definitely bouncing back. I share the same comment as Giacomo. We can't say anything right ahead of our earnings call, which is in 2 weeks exactly. But the year is trending pretty well. I would say Europe, the single engine segment is still quite active. We made some announcement during Farnborough. We're going to make some more during the upcoming European Rotors. 525 definitely for us, right? With the breakthrough in the North Sea, in Norway, with the Equinor fleet order, I think that's sending a really strong message to the market. So we are really pleased with that, and we see a lot of replacement opportunities on that segment in the years to come, and that's definitely incremental business for Bell. And globally, we also have a lot of 412 interest right now, and some big contracts announced for special missions such as firefighting, parapublic missions.
Thank you. Dan, can you give us your view?
Sure. I mean, certainly I agree with your sentiment that we've seen increased demand from idle assets. For example, on the 76 side, we've seen over 50 aircraft go back into service, now over 500 across the active assets across all the 76 variants. And also on the S92 front, we've seen almost 100% utilization across the fleet. In the military side of our business, we see a strong demand and pull both through FMS channels for our products like the Black Hawk helicopter, and then also, the Firehawk. We've seen great success in the western part of the United States, and there's a strong pull for that type of demand with the fire threat across Europe. So definitely seeing a strong pull across all of our segments, both from an incumbency perspective, but also on the new aircraft side.
David?
Yes, on our side, I would say we have almost the same analysis. One perhaps difference with the other ones is actually in 2023 for us, actually European market was big. Actually, was rather big, mainly in parapublic. We had, for example, the 42 H145 for the French Gendarmerie. So I would say from our view or from our window, actually the European market is one of the key markets. And even in 2023, actually, it has been already good. What we see over the first 3 quarters, so I know I talk about the numbers for, I would say, Airbus plus actually what we estimate was the competition. What we see is even a further increase in 2024 in Europe. The only market segments where actually we have a little bit of pending demand and a little bit of wait-and-see attitude is a little bit in Europe, in EMS. But there are a lot of tenders that are going on, actually, especially in Central and Eastern Europe. So actually, I think this is just a phasing effect. So all in all, actually, I agree. My only comment would be that 2023 actually was rather good, actually, a good year for Europe.
Great.
Contrary to the second market, I would say.
So let's move on to product innovations. Can you give me a sense of, or give everyone a sense of, what you're most proud of in the last 12 months in terms of product innovations, and what the pipeline looks like, what you're looking forward to in 2020-25, and let's start with Robin.
Yeah. So first I wanted to mention is the Garmin 3-axis autopilot on the Bell 505 with their flight control 600H flight control system and hover assist mode. Why I want to mention that, because it's quite remarkable to have this type of technology on this segment. And it adds a lot to the operations in terms of safety, and we see a pretty high demand on that one for new aircraft, but also retrofit. So we got certification FAA last year, and we announced the EASA this year. Then of course 525, right? For us, it's going to be we think a game changer in the industry, starting with a clean sheet design and all the technology you can embed in that, and being the first fly-by-wire commercial aircraft. So we are making great progress on certification, and we are really excited about the future of 525. And last one is probably the 429 Alpha project that you've probably seen in the news. Alpha stands for Aircraft Lab for Future Autonomy. So it's really a platform. We are flying now to demonstrate and to test the autonomous capabilities, and it's pretty platform agnostic, but those capabilities are going to be embedded then in commercial and military programs. So it's quite an exciting project, and it's we think bright future ahead in terms of technology changes.
And can I just say, like, if you all have questions for each other, please feel free to get in there and
won't disclose any secrets, but yeah, you can try.
But by autonomous, you mean just various degrees of automation or full automation? I mean, how much?
Yeah,
automation?
it's equipped with fly-by-wire. So as you know, handling qualities and human factors is quite strong at Bell. We have a really long history with the fly-by-wire systems. So we are really trying to push that to the next level. So it's quite an interesting project, and we hope that will come to market sooner than later.
Okay. Dan.
Yeah, so just last month we announced FAA certification of life extension of both the S92 main gearbox housing and also the main rotor hub. This was using 10 years of investment on a program we call Life Plus, and that leverages the 2.3 million flight hours we have on the 92. And that leverages the actual usage of the aircraft to determine the life. So we're able to enable longer time on wing for a number of these critical assets, and it acts as a relief valve as we work through some supply challenges, specifically on the gearbox. So really excited about that. And heading into next year, we'll be using and expanding the Life Plus capability to add more life throughout the helicopter, which really will expand and keep major components on wing longer. And then similarly to Robin, Sikorsky's been invested on autonomous capabilities for the last 10 years, matrix capabilities. We've many of those out in the market have seen us fly the Black Hawk completely unmanned, leveraging this autonomous technology. We've put it on 10 different platforms up to this point. So we really do see a higher level of fidelity and autonomous capability being the next frontier for rotary wing aviation. We're excited to be right there along with our peers here.
Do you see that being applied to any civil programs?
I do. For example, we have already today advanced rig approach, which allows the 92 to use a coupled approach to rigs, and we're looking to leverage matrix to enable higher fidelity and closer rig approach, leveraging the matrix technology. So certainly more to come. A lot of work to go with regulators, of course, as you introduce higher levels of technology on our platforms, but certainly we've made significant investment on that front, and more to go there.
David.
So on my side, I would say, manual teaming first with two, I would say, key successes on our side. 145 that we've sold to the German army with the capability actually to control drones, or actually you are flying with a helicopter. So on the 145. Some weeks ago, actually, we did as well demonstration in Spain with the 135 also, actually flying with another drone. So we are agnostic to the drones from the competition. Actually, we can operate with the drones from the competition. So we say we have this autonomy as well roadmap that we are working on, and we are kind of concrete because we are selling already and we are testing at the same time. So this is on the autonomy. We have also VSR 700, where actually we made a lot of tests, actually landing even with a lot of, waves. Sea states, sorry, thanks. I have my official translator from the US. With really tough conditions, and we succeed to land efficiently on the boats. So as well, actually, there's a milestone on our autonomy roadmap. Then actually back to Earth, H160 certification in the US, but also the IFR capability of the 160s that have been implemented. This is actually, it opens actually the domain of operations, I would say, but also safety. And talking about 175 FIPS, actually the campaign has been successfully finished. So now we can offer that as well to our customers. And last but not least, we have also the 1 to 5 IFR in the pipeline for this year. So I would say it covers somehow the spectrum of last 12 months and what is coming over the next months as well.
Okay. Thanks, David. We should say that your official translator is Nitin, Sareen, and he'll be speaking on the second panel focused on the US. Giacomo, your take, please, on innovations.
Thank you. I do concur with the colleagues. What are the main avenues of development that we're following are all around automation. So for us, automation is trying to give much more brain, let's say, to helicopters that in terms of muscles, at the moment, they are well developed. So does not mean that we will not need pilots. Basically, our objective is to keep the workload of the crews, front crews, so and ground crews as well, as let's say optimized as possible, considering the amount of data and the amount of information that will be more and more embedded in our helicopters. So more or less, this is the roadmap that we're following, and with actual examples on all the weight classes. On the light twin, we 1 year ago roughly, we developed and certified the new autopilot of the tracker for Axis. And the tracker is demonstrating a good platform in the segment, serving a variety of roles. 169, the introduction of the SAR modes recently, which is in that category at the moment, the one that can feature one pilot advanced SAR mode capability. And of course, where we are looking at is more automation in critical phase of the flight. Specifically on 169, we're working, but with the objective to then fertilize all our other platforms. One avenue also in which we are trying to develop as much as possible is the exploitation of data and the possibility of trying to propose more advanced services thanks to the availability of data, real-time availability of data. And one example is the helicopter data transmission with which we are equipping all our platforms, but starting from the 189 with early adopters. I'm pleased that we can work with Bel in Denmark to start looking at and exploiting this capability. So quite interesting activities ongoing on the innovation side. And of course, we are very, very impatient to see in the skies the 09, which is our platform in the long cabin single engine segment, which we expect next year to enter in service.
Thanks, Giacomo. Okay, let's talk about struggles and challenges. This is your opportunity to come clean. We embrace the struggles. It's a key to success. We have to overcome challenges. What challenge? I mean, are you facing the same challenges this year than last? How are you dealing with them? Have new challenges appeared? And if so, which? And Dan, you want to get us started?
Yeah, sure. So certainly, we've had our fair share of challenges across the fleet. However, we've been very open and transparent with our operators, our end users, on where we're going. So we've really taken a two-pronged approach with our supply chain, really looking at supply chain health and looking out further for supply chain. Lead times are certainly expanding when you think of raw materials, titaniums, magnesiums, aluminums, et cetera, almost upwards of 3 to 5 years. So we're forecasting even longer than what we had previously. But we've also made the technology investments that we had mentioned about, solving the near-term challenges through life extensions and leveraging the data that we have to really enable a near-term relief valve. So very excited there. We're turning a corner. There are still some industry-wide challenges. You wouldn't imagine that the challenge on transparencies, for example, on both the rotary wing and fixed wing markets, we're still working through that and also looking at a number of alternate sources for a number of those parts. But excited to say that we've specifically on gearboxes shipped almost 40% more in 23 as we did in 22, and then this year we're on track to ship even 25% more than what we did in 2023. So I do see us turning the corner here as it relates to fleet availability, but we continue to update all of our customers and operators on a monthly basis.
David.
So I'd say we are facing the same issues, supply chain, spares, and so on. I would say in a way it's not so different from last year. The only difference for Airbus is we've sold quite a number of helicopters, and now we need to ramp up. So if you need to deliver 10 helicopters per year, it's fine. You have some issues. If you need to double, actually, it's another challenge. In the context where actually we are not, in the industry, helicopters are small. And sometimes you are in competition with fixed wings, with other actually players in the industry. And it's pretty difficult actually to negotiate properly with them because you may not be on the top list of the authority. So on our side today, I would say our challenge is to deliver and to be able to ramp up. In the energy segments, I think actually people wake up a little bit too late, and now we need to catch up in a way, and they want the aircraft as soon as possible. So the challenge is, I think, the same all over the industry. It's now we need to deliver, and we need to support our helicopters. And this is, it's not different from the past, but people are flying more because the demand is there. They want to take new deliveries at the same time. So now actually, it just the volumetry is higher. And yeah.
Giacomo.
Yeah, I would have used the same words and commentaries of David. We basically, if I can try to give an overview of what the difference between the past and now is, while we were recovering supply chain issues which were specifically impacting our support network, we now are facing the need to ramp up capacity, production capacity, because demand is there. The market is in a very good momentum, and we need to catch up the rhythm that the market is asking. Of course, this is an opportunity, but is also a challenge to manage how to build capacity to be anyway sustainable in the long term, because we know that this market has experienced ups and downs. So it's important to do it in a sustainable manner. So we are very focusing also in expanding our supply chain footprint in order to have sustainable and partnership long-term approaches with our suppliers, that actually they become real partners going forward. So where we are trying to deep dive and to build stronger relationships with suppliers in order to face the challenges that we have ahead.
Robin?
Well, I'm not going to be original, right? That's the same. Supply chain, I think, is the main challenge for all of us, right? It's not only our industry, right? It's across the board. It's a very dynamic environment. I was at the headquarters in Texas last week and met with our EVP of supply chain, and her team is really doing an amazing job. They have a good relationship with our suppliers, and they are really trying to leverage that to put up some good work. Of course, it's giving them enough visibility also into the future, right? To make sure we can deliver. So I see some improvement, right? But I think it's going to continue to be a bit of a challenge across the board for some time ahead.
Okay. All right. If you think supply chain no longer affects lead time, raise your hand. All right. Fine. Talking of which, how are lead times compared to last year? Giacomo?
Thank you for the question, Emmanuel. I roughly would say that they are improving, not materially, because of a combination of factors. So from one side, the recovery of the supply chain, of course, what David mentioned before, our bargaining power with big suppliers that are feeding also fixed wing is, of course, on another scale, and catching up with the demand of helicopters. This is increasing, and also the number of flight hours is picking up as well. So basically, all those elements together makes that there is not such a huge difference, but we are on an improving path, because basically we are trying to structurally and in a sustainable manner building up capacity. What we are very proud of the job that has been done in the recent months is to improve our answer, specifically on the customer support side, having factual improvements on delivery schedule adherence, reduction of backlog, and critical items lead time. There we are working that much, making significant investments to sustain the fleet, but of course, it's a long journey that we need to embrace together with our supply chain, of course.
Robin, lead times compared to last year.
I mean, it's not going specific. I'll say it's still pretty stable, right? We are in the window we want to be in, where it's not too long to lose customers, but we're still getting a healthy backlog. So I will say, of course, depending the models might vary a little bit, but we are, I think at Bell we're doing pretty fine on lead times right now.
You can be specific if you want.
No, my head of communication instructed me not to be.
Okay. Dan.
Yeah, like I mentioned in the last question, it really requires forward planning. From last year to this year, I think we're seeing similar lead times from our supply base. And so, or maybe even in some cases longer, like I mentioned on the raw material front. So we're forecasting, in many cases 3 to 5 years out. So, our message to our supply base is we're leaning forward, making significant investments in the supply base to be planning that far out, but also, messaging that back to our customer base that those are the lead times in which this industry is really facing right now. So it does require as much forward planning as possible. The aerospace and defense supply chain is not as nimble as you might think. So it's definitely an aircraft carrier type size machine. When you try to turn the rudder right, it won't immediately go right. So, certainly a everyday blocking and tackling, but we've been making the right investments, right forecasts, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of that over the last few months.
David?
I would say that on average, actually, it's pretty stable, despite everything I said before on the supply chain and so on. At least we should have seen actually an improvement, a significant improvement in terms of lead time, but as we are ramping them and so on, all in all, we are stable. So I mean, the pluses and the minuses compensate each other. We have some specific programs which is lead time is increasing a little bit, and we are working on it. The 145 is one of them. On the other programs, I would say it's pretty under control. So I would say it's stable, and we have some exceptions, but it's in context with a difficult supply chain and a ramp-up context. And all in all, I think it's stable at this stage.
Very well, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. On behalf of all in attendance, David, Giacomo, Robin, Dan, thank you very much for sharing your analysis and expertise.
Thanks for the invite.
Hope to see you all soon. And to
see you, Emmanuel.
See you. To introduce the next panelist, no one is better suited than John Bias, Senior Sales Director at Aero Asset. John has, good to see you, John, has experienced many different facets of this industry over several decades, working as a helicopter mechanic, a DOM, an instructor, a new helicopter sales key accounts for Airbus Helicopters, Inc., working under the great Mark Paganini. John, please take over.
Thanks, Emmanuel. I appreciate that introduction. Looking forward to this segment, so we'll get on with it. It's a pleasure to be here and to introduce, in no particular order, some of our panelists. With Sikorsky Aircraft Program Management Director Dan Shidler, with BellFlight, the EMS Segment Manager Steve Soliz, Leonardo Head of Marketing Mike Bucari, and Airbus Helicopters Inc. Head of Marketing Nitin Sareen. So welcome everybody. I hope you're
Thank you for having us,
John. Hope you're having a good morning or good afternoon. So wherever you may be. So we'll get on with it. We'll use the same format as previous with that Emmanuel laid out. So we have got some questions. I'll ask the question and then we'll get to an answer that I'll ask from each one of you. So the first question, what is the general mood in the helicopter industry and civil market, and specifically in North America? I'll start with Steve.
Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate it. We're seeing a lot of, over the last couple of years in the HEMS market, we've seen it kind of flat based on the No Surprises Act, and a lot of programs really aren't spending a lot of money on new helicopters yet as they stabilize their financial situation based on that legislation. But, other segments that we've seen pretty steady progress with is obviously our corporate market and parapublic, such as fire and law enforcement, electronic news gathering, et cetera. We've seen those markets stable and even growing a bit. And obviously, globally, the firefighting has been a big deal. I think over the past 20 years, every year is 5% greater fire activity than the year before. So there's a lot of potential out there.
Okay, thanks. Michael, we'll go with you.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Well, for us, the overall general mood, I think, is cautiously optimistic. You're looking at a little bit of an increase in demand over the next 5 to 7 years. But it is very market segment specific, as Steve was alluding to. EMS has been semi-flat over the last few years and continues to be semi-flat due to the reimbursement schedule there. But there's other markets that are continuing to grow. Firefighting was already mentioned, but then you have some emerging markets as well. Offshore wind is one that is picking up here in the United States, and I think you'll see that continue to grow, although it won't be as big as what you see with the energy market and oil and gas in Gulf of Mexico, which has also been a nice little pick-me-up in utilization over the last few years, and we can continue to see that rising. So I would say the overall general mood is optimistic, and we'll see how the next 3 to 4 years play out.
Okay, thanks. Dan, what's your take on the industry in North America?
Yeah, certainly. So Sikorsky, we have a strong order backlog amongst our military products and civil. We're seeing strong demand globally and also in North America, specifically highlighting the Firehawk on the civil side. We're fielding a number of aircraft with that capability really to address the threat in the western states. And then also seeing a number of aircraft and stronger demand on the VIP market side, seeing some demand coming from a reconfiguration of maybe some existing assets and potentially a demand for new. So certainly seeing and on the energy side, I would say a healthier dynamic through the entire value chain. We've seen some challenges over the past few years through the value chain, and I think some of the messaging across the industry has really taken root and has garnered a much healthier value chain throughout. So I would agree with both Steve and Michael's sentiment so far. That's cautiously optimistic in a number of the segments.
Okay, Nitin, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I think in addition to what has been said already, obviously, when you talk about the North American helicopter market, you're talking about the #1 helicopter market in the world. specifically on the civil market. As David was mentioning in the previous segment, we did have a pretty good performance in 2023, but when you looked at the North American market, civil market last year, it was, of course, not fully realized in terms of potential. What we've seen is really the mood change this year. If just to tell you quickly, at the end of Q3, what we see is the demand is actually already overtaken the 5-year average that we've seen in terms of demand for new helicopters. We're also seeing on the used aircraft side, as we track that as well, obviously, that the demand seems to be consistently there. And what is exceptional about our market in North America is that it's so balanced amongst all segments. So yes, with some of the things that were said about other segments, but there are always, if there's one segment which is going through a transition, a challenge, there are always opportunities in other segments. And so we are certainly seeing an upward trend that we hope we'll build from here on for the next few years.
Okay, thank you all. Next question. It's an election year in the United States. How is this affecting demand? Are your customers taking a wait and see approach, or are they making decisions? I'll start back with Nitin for the first one then.
Well, from what we see at Airbus Helicopters is, with the exception of perhaps the PBA market, the private and business market, where there is this wait and see approach, we haven't seen that there has been any sort of holdback from any other segment. And this is sort of a global trend that we see with the PBA market. They always have this cautious approach. So obviously with the change, guard in the US, that we're approaching, there is that kind of hold back a little bit on the PBA market. But the other segments are pretty fluid.
Okay, thanks. Steve.
Oh, thanks for that question, John. What we see a lot too, I think, is probably with all the OEMs, is that really doesn't really make, from the civil market standpoint, doesn't really make much of a change when it comes to, who's going to be in office. We're happy to serve, obviously, whoever administration comes into power, but we know that when there's different, different type of activities with government to government versus, just business to business type decisions. So in the civil sector, we won't really see any or anticipate any change.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah, I'll echo the same sentiments. I don't believe, and we don't believe that really is going to drive much buying behavior. We see demand if you're looking to buy a helicopter or an asset to perform a specific mission. It doesn't seem to matter exactly who's in office. So I think we'll see the same amount of demand regardless of who goes into office.
Okay, thanks. Looks like we might have lost Mike for a moment, so I'll come back to Mike when he gets back on stage. Oh, there he is. Okay, great.
Sorry about that. Had a little technical difficulties there. Apologize.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah.
Sentiment to what what everybody else said on the panel. It will affect in certain ways here and there, but really from a civil demand perspective, we see at Leonardo, it doesn't matter Republican, Democrat, they'll have a little influence, but no overall, nothing too bad.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question, a little more specific. In North America, what are the emerging markets that you see that are important or really have your attention as an OEM? I'll start with Dan on this one.
Yeah, I would say we're addressing all markets as they come across. So, of course, our military segment of the business is seeing strong demand from our legacy Black Hawk aircraft and also the 53K as that ramps into full rate production. On the civil side, strong focus on supporting our existing fleets and the 76s and 92s, and then also addressing the continued pull for Firehawk aircraft. So continued focus across the board. and we look forward to continue to addressing all those specific segments. I wouldn't say one has a particular stronger focus than others.
Okay, great. Thanks. Nitin.
So we think obviously the commercial utility segment, which is the largest chunk of the civil market, offers within North America quite a few innovations. We saw that, John, a few years back, if you remember, with, for example, mosquito control. It became a thing in terms of an emerging segment, and we saw a lot of helicopters being deployed in that. And then, of course, I mean, it's been said already over and over again, we see firefighting and what the work that needs to happen all across the North American fleet, because we are talking about really, aircraft that obviously are served well, but, there's obviously a turnover there in terms of technology and the next steps. So that for us is an emerging segment as well. And then, of course, there are certain niche sort of multi-role public services sort of, opportunities that are emerging as well that are very interesting. What we also see in the same space is that even though it's not perhaps always about a new emerging segment, but it is also about, bringing more capability, perhaps where there was a single engine deployed. Now it's, they're talking about a twin engine. Or where there was a light twin engine deployed, you're talking about a medium. Or if there was a medium, you're talking about this, some sort of an upgrade going on there as well, which is a very interesting trend.
Okay, thank you. Interesting points. Steve.
Not really too many emerging markets, but one thing I have seen that we have seen both in North America and globally is actually the cautious approach on using, on purchasing, making a large purchase of an aircraft and making sure that, or having it have multi-mission capability. So instead of just having a firefighting mission or law enforcement mission or a search and rescue mission, that it has a little bit of everything, it has the capability to do that. So essentially you're getting 3 or 4 mission profiles in one purchase, which is really easier to sell, especially from a governmental standpoint, to your voters and your constituency.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the next question is a zinger, I think. I'll ask Nitin to answer it first. Who's going to win the election in the U.S.?
Thanks, John, for putting me on the spot. But I would say, I hope certainly the next president of the United States. Well put.
Well put. I think I'll just move on to the next question. That's a loaded question. Yeah.
You just aged it. You just aged him 5 years.
Yeah, you really did.
Yeah.
John, maybe the only point I would
make, my friend Nitin. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe the only point I would like to make there is, we've proudly flown every president since Eisenhower. So, we're looking forward to continuing to serve that mission with Marine One for years to come. We just recently had the first operation on VH-92. Very excited about that entering into service. So looking forward to continuing to operate that mission for years to come.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. That's good input. That's a good insight that Sikorsky has on that. So next question. There have been several UH-60 surplus aircraft coming on the market in the past few years, and in pretty large numbers. How are you seeing this as a new OEM? And I may have to exclude Dan on this one. As a new OEM on the competition that potentially these heavy surplus helicopters are providing on the market. I'll start with Mike.
Thank you, Steve, or thank you, John. But yes, we are definitely seeing. I don't want to say a disturbance, but with these new with these UH-160s coming or UH-60s coming, it has been a little bit of an issue for us. With Leonardo helicopters, you're talking about these utilitarian helicopters that are coming in and servicing these markets, such as firefighting, that could also be serviced by new commercial products. And how do we, as the OEM, kind of maneuver around that and see that there's a complementary portion to having a civil certified aircraft with these surplus aircraft coming in. But they do serve a purpose. If you remember, even the OH-58s that came in for the law enforcement market served that purpose and did it extremely well. So it's just a matter of understanding where the pros and cons are, but also where do our products from a commercial and civilian perspective complement these types of aircraft coming into the market.
Thanks, Mike. Good points. Steve.
Yes, one approach we have actually is discussing when people are going to purchase that aircraft is, we don't actually have an aircraft that actually matches its capability at this current time. But, working with those customers or those markets and discussing mixed fleet options, having the capability to do to different things that Sikorsky can't do all, for maybe some of the shorter hauls or less, not firefighting missions. So just being, having a talk with the customer and seeing exactly what their needs are and seeing if we can complement that.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Dan, looking forward to your viewpoint on this.
Yeah, of course, we're I think it's just a proof point that it's a great design, a long-standing design. The UH-60 can serve multiple missions, multiple markets, battle tested. We're seeing customers put them into missions now that, honestly, were never envisioned when the Black Hawk was first designed. So, I'll just say in general, looking forward to supporting those markets. We don't see it as a strong drag on the new side. We view it as complementary and it's really an entry point into entry point into either newer Black Hawk in the future or again getting use out of the excess defense article asset. So really just proud of the longevity that the Black Hawk has really proven.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We'll move on to the next topic. What technology changes are being made within your customer support platforms to improve customer service, customer support, and is AI part of that? I'll go to Nitin with this one.
Right, and David, feel free to jump in. But basically, given our footprint in North America, obviously our prime basically objective is, with all that has been said about supply chain challenges and all, on how on a day-to-day we can provide better support to our customers. And there's been a lot of investment that we've done over the last couple of years in North America, where we've added obviously more inventory of parts, and we've added more capability when it comes to repair and overhaul. Also spruced up our training within North America as well. So that's the day-to-day. Then there is the long term in terms of like you said, the next gen technologies, which includes AI. And on that, obviously, this is it's not like, we'll find a chat GPT bot that will, tomorrow start answering our customers' requests. There are certain applications internally that we are already deploying across our platforms, across our support platforms even. But then there is the front end. What we are today focused on is that face-to-face, which our helicopter industry needs, our operators need, because these helicopters are operated in all sorts of desolated areas, and so our focus is there in the immediate context, and then there'll be of course the long term in terms of bringing new technologies.
Yeah, so actually on the long term, but even today, you have also already solutions where actually we try to anticipate the maintenance, the spares that will be needed. It's done at the helicopter level, but it's also done at a more global level. And on this both flow, actually, we already start actually to implement a little bit of AI. I would say low profile AI, actually to have algorithms to anticipate and to predict maintenance. And when you combine that with good logistics and good presence, actually, this is actually, I think, the way forward. So it's, AI, but actually human beings as well in front of the customer.
Okay, thanks, guys. Dan.
So we're certainly, we have our 24/7, 365 commercial customer care center that operates day in and day out to really address aircraft on ground resolutions. We're looking at augmenting that with additional capabilities, using the hum systems on the aircraft for predictive maintenance and advanced capabilities. But that is really just in I'll say experimentation mode, if you will. We're also looking at AI on can it help expedite the process for tech pub development. Can you get the 80% solution on developing your technical publications with leveraging AI, and then coming over the top with the humans into really cleaning them up and getting them ready for certification, etc. So it's certainly an emerging area, and looking for smart ways to implement that throughout the full value chain.
Okay, thanks. Mike, your thoughts on this?
Sure, thank you. So for us, Leonardo Helicopters, we want to get as close to the customer as we possibly can. And, that's one thing that actually was a byproduct of going through COVID was these operations and utilization still were there, and we needed to be with the customer as much as we possibly can. So digitalization for us was one of the key primary focuses while we were, going through the COVID area. And I think we've come out of that much better than where we started. Like I said, digitalization for us includes tech pubs, RFMs, apps for smartphones. All of that is able to get to the customer as quickly as we possibly can, and the customer can get to us as quickly as we possibly can. And it also got, not just from a support perspective, but it also leads to aircraft with hums and working on real-time hums transactions, but also in terms of training. Training we have to still provide on a day-to-day basis, and being able to go virtual as well is something that is a complement to our support and training programs and departments. The one other thing in regards to AI that I would say is we've started implementing AI into our support platforms to help us specifically on supply chain, but also material planning with our customers. Because if we do the material planning in collaboration with our customers, it allows us to migrate or go through the supply chain issues or the supply chain landmine that you see on that we all experience today much better. Planning is key, and AI is a big component of that. So is the customer, but so is also the OEM as well. So I think it's going to be play a vital role in today, but also even more in the future.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We'll let Steve finish this one up.
Yes, thanks. I want to go ahead and echo what my colleagues had discussed already. Having 24-hour customer responsiveness is very, very important, but also putting your product support people there in front of the customer and talking to them. And one of the things that Michael just touched on, which we do all have integrated predictive maintenance that's in our programs, but due to the supply chain issues, talking to your customers and finding out that more than likely you're going to have a part that you're going to need on this given interval, just based on your fleet, your operational pace, and having those discussions and be able to have parts ordered early prior to AOG or close to AOG is really something that makes everybody operate more efficiently.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So the last question of this segment, it's been talked about a little bit earlier, so I may change the wording a little bit. So in the USA, the No Surprise Act, it's no surprise to us that it's had a big effect on our EMS operators in the US. and the reimbursement. What are your customers really expressing to you of their main concerns of this and the parts of the No Surprise Act? So I think I'll start with Steve on this one because you mentioned it earlier.
Yes, thanks, John. I'm on the board of directors for the Association of Aeromedical Services, and obviously I've been in this market for 30 years. And it's a huge challenge because the biggest thing everybody here will know is from the customers' lack of cash flow, right? Their DSOs, which were normally 90 to 120 days, were at one point reaching almost 2 years because of the arbitration process whenever you were denied reimbursement because you were out of network, and you'd have a negotiation process between you, the provider and the insurance company. Then they would say, okay, guess what? Instead of $10, we're going to reimburse you $7. But then they would take longer than the 30 days prescribed to pay that $30 because there was no teeth in the legislation. Well, that just continuous lobbying, which all the OEMs have participated in and supporting this lobbying efforts, has moved that. So now recently this has come to light that they're going to start paying in a timely manner, which will really help our customers out and hopefully give them that cash flow that they need, because this kind of reset everything, right? Because everybody was getting reimbursed on a regular time, and then some people had to make some tough choices, and close bases in rural areas. And so when you still have the assets sitting on a helipad somewhere or at an airport or in a hangar, that doesn't help the OEMs, because they have aircraft availability for themselves. So we'll hopefully this will get better. And also too, we just ended up successfully lobbying the VA from cutting back on the reimbursement. They were going to cut back by 70% on reimbursement. So we pushed a whole bunch of professional organizations push back on that, and they're going to revisit it to 2029. So we have until 2029 to talk to them and say this is a really good reimbursement rate for our customers.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly can't add too much more than what Steve said. We don't have a large customer base. Our presence in the HEMS market, a lot of our operators of 76s are either private hospitals or municipalities where this hasn't necessarily impacted them. But I draw parallels back to some of the challenges we all collectively experienced in the energy markets. For this type of industry to thrive, you need a really healthy value chain. And like as Steve mentioned, it just challenges the cash flow all the way through. So I think the messaging that we're collectively doing is important to drive the importance of a healthy cash flow to ensure that those operators are really able to perform those critical missions that they need to.
Thanks, Dan.
Sure.
Mike, you had talked about this a little bit earlier also.
So I echo a lot of what Steve and Dan have already said. In speaking with our customer base, the biggest concerns are the delays in the actual payments from the insurance after the successful IDR negotiations. So that hits in with the cash flow, where we had some customers that were experiencing cash flow delays of up to 6 to 9 over 12 months, and thankfully and hopefully that this is now in our past, and we can kind of continue moving forward. I think the other concerns that our customer base has is the actual timing of this No Surprises Act. They wanted to run with it just a few years ago, and we were supposed to stand up the committee that was supposed to look at all of this with the insurance companies, and that just happened a few weeks ago, where the committee was stood up, and it was supposed to happen February of 2022. So I think as we continue to move through this, and I will say I give kudos to all of the OEMs for really pushing forward these lobbying efforts on behalf of our customer base, because it was a big issue. It is a big issue. It will continue to be a big issue. But I think us standing collectively together has been what pushed this over the finish line. So kudos to all of us on this panel.
Okay, and we'll finish up with Nitin on this topic.
I think we all echo the same concerns, right? Like, it's not been easy for our EMS operators. It's not been easy for us as it being a major segment that we serve from Airbus. I mean, there's 1,300 approximately EMS air medical helicopters in the US alone. We have 55% of that share. So if our customers in that base get affected, we get affected. But I think we are turning the page as well, because our 75% of those 1,300 helicopters are basically the 4 key operators, right? So there's been obviously some consolidations. They've also turned the page with having come around and restructured themselves. But now the other reality of it is that only 25% of these helicopters are less than 10 years. They're an aging fleet, air medical helicopters. So there is this realization amongst all operators, amongst all sorts of EMS programs, be it hospital-based, communities, or hybrid programs, that there is need to bring in more operational efficiency as well. And that's where obviously fleet replacement is one of the avenues that is being considered. And so we are with our operators in this concern. There is a lot of work that's been done, as said by Steve and others, a lot of work that needs to be done still. However, at the same time, everyone's aware that we still need to continue to bring in more operational efficiencies, which include newer helicopter types, new technology, and which will, at the end, improve the air medical segment as a whole in the US.
Thank you, Nitin. All very good points, and it's a really, really important topic for North American, especially US EMS operations. Again, thank you very much to all of you for these inputs that you've shared today and the time you spent with us. Very much appreciated. Emmanuel, it's going to go back to you now.
Thanks, John. Thank you very much for spearheading this segment, this deep dive into the US civil helicopter market. That was very interesting content. And now to discuss the tribulations and flourishment of the pre-owned twin-engine helicopter market. And joining us from Madrid, Spain, I'm delighted to introduce William Sturm, Aero Assets Vice President of Sales. William needs no introduction, but let me say that if you haven't tasted his cuisine yet, you really should get him to cook you a meal. He's an incredible chef, almost as good at culinary arts as he is at trading helicopters. William, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm blushing. Geez, thanks. What an intro. Hopefully we can cook again soon, maybe in Amsterdam.
Let's hop right in it. What's been going on in the twin-engine helicopter market in the first half of the year, Will?
Well, it's been an interesting year. 2024 has been very dynamic in the pre-owned segment, and we'll talk about twins today. I think the big takeaway is sales volume across all weight classes is down. It's down by about 25%, actually. Mediums have taken the biggest hit, about 45% drop in volume, followed by the heavies, which is down 25%, and the lights has fared the best with about a 14% reduction in sales volume. But if you look to the right-hand side, an interesting point is that in the middle slide on the right-hand side of this, pricing has reached a 5-year peak. So conversely to what we were just talking about in terms of supply or sales volume, light twins are up 20%, mediums are up 15%, and heavies are trending up just slightly. So it's curious how that's taken shape. And when we look at supply across the entire board, supply is up 7%, and really the majority of that is still coming from the US and North America. So what we've seen is an overall impact of absorption rate increasing by about 5 months. And if you guys aren't familiar with absorption rate, it's the time it takes for an available supply of aircraft to be sold. So we're at a year and a half at current trade levels, and yeah, that's a fairly significant increase of 5 months since last year. So very, very dynamic indeed.
Yeah, seems like there's like good and bad, but definitely dynamic. How do these trends compare, like relate to previous years' performance? So versus 2022?
Well, as you can see from these graphs that show 5-year trends, and by the way, I think there's a link on the Crowdcast to download our heli market trends for both singles, twins, and our annual report. I really encourage you guys to sign up so you get them in your mailbox right when they're published. But looking at 5-year trends, you can see that retail sales, the volume is continuing to trend downward after a real peak in semester 2 of 2021. And conversely, supply has continued to steadily increase since the first semester of 2022, which coincidentally was the lowest overall absorption rate we've ever seen since we started tracking the market over 5 years ago. But really on a positive note, the deal pipeline, which we call the deal pipeline, it's the number of sales pending at various stages of a transaction, has risen about 30% since the same time we're at right now last year. And we're tracking about 35 twin deals at the moment. So that's a positive note. A few of those, hopefully we'll get those clicked off before the end of the year. But yeah, that's very, that's a positive note for the market.
Yeah, and presumably U.S. still driven by bonus depreciation, even though it is, I think it's down to 60% now, but I'm hearing there's Democrat and Republican energy behind putting bonus depreciation back to 100%. I'm not sure if it's going to make it through Congress, but there's definitely a push towards that. What models are performing better than others?
So yeah, good question. So the most liquid pre-owned market year to date, actually two markets have been the 135 and the 145 across all variants. We're seeing retail sales up about 70%. The majority of those are coming from later model variants, but there's really strong demand across T2 plus, P2 plus, as well as late model C2 variants. So it's a very active market. Third place, Agusta 139. It's seen a modest increase in sales compared to last year, but the supply is way down. There's like half the supply of what we saw about this time last year. Least liquid market, the EC stroke H155. We've really it's been very inactive, down about 80% from the volumes we saw last year. And the S76D, it's a market that's just really, it's hard to get deals done, very paralyzed at the moment. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of deals happen. Touching on what you talked about, bonus depreciation, the last few months of the year, it's always a go to New Year's. Everybody wants to get deals done. So I don't see any change. And I think everybody's ready to get a bunch of deals done. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, well, thanks for some great intel there. And I think that report, sorry for the shameless plug, is downloadable at aeroasset.com/report. And I look forward to seeing you and hopefully everyone tuning in for European Rotors in Amsterdam.
Indeed. Yeah, it'll be great to see everybody. And thanks to everybody for joining today on our first roundtable. It's great to have everybody, and hope to see you again soon. And everybody in Florida, I hope you're safe or your families are safe. Really good to see everybody. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Will. And thanks again to everyone for attending this live roundtable. We very much look forward to see you all in a next edition coming very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.